As incredible as the chocolate room is, it doesn't take long for Wonka's guests to notice his peculiar helpers, the Oompa Loompas. And it's at this point in the episode that things are about to take a dark turn. Chances are, when I say Oompa Loompa, you either visualize a little orange man with green hair and white overalls, or actor Deep Roy in a red jumpsuit, depending on which of the films you grew up on. Well, neither of those are even close to how they're described in the book, not in the original version, nor in the revised edition that Roald Dahl himself edited. You see, the original Oompa Loompas, I'm talking from the OG 1964 publication, were 2-foot-tall African people who Charlie mistakes as being made from chocolate. I wish I was kidding. Wonka says there are more than 3,000 Oompa Loompas living in his factory, that he smuggled their whole tribe over from Africa himself, and they still wear their jungle clothes. The men sport deerskins, women wear leaves, and the children run around totally naked. He found them in the deepest part of the African jungle where no white man had ever been before, and they love cocoa beans so much that they were all willing to move into his factory and work there in exchange for cocoa beans as their only form of payment. Seems a little exploitative, but I think that Dahl realized that, because he made it clear that the Oompa Loompa chief emphatically agreed to these terms. He wasn't coerced in any way. But wait, because if you weren't uncomfortable already, you're about to be. Wonka also adds that he smuggled the dark-skinned Oompa Loompas here in packing cases with holes in them, which almost sounds like suitcases, but the accompanying illustration shows them in shipping crates, like the big wooden boxes you always see in cartoons but never in real life. Dahl went on to redesign the Oompa Loompas after the 1971 movie went into production. There were concerns from the movie makers and the NAACP that portraying these characters on screen would draw unwanted comparisons to slavery. And by this point, the book had already been drawing criticism and requests to be edited. So, after a lot of public pressure, Dahl's publishers strongly advised him to change their look, and he obliged. Curiously though, his reimagining of Oompa Loompas is still a far cry from how they're shown in the movie. They do keep some details the same, like now the helpers are from Loompa Land instead of Africa, and Wonka is portrayed as their savior from dangerous beasts like hornswogglers, noswangers, and wicked wangdoodles. But in terms of their physical appearance, the Oompa Loompas were changed to have pearly white teeth, rosy white skin, and sport long golden brown hair. The one detail that remained from the previous iteration is they opted for the usual jungle attire of deerskins and leaves. I have no idea where their design for the Wilder adaptation came from. I know they're supposed to be fantasy creatures mixed with factory workers, so an unusual appearance along with little overalls makes sense, but the bright orange skin and green hair, haven't a clue. It was a good call though, because from the first moment you see them, you never forget them. When you think about it though, Burton's version resembles Dahl's original vision a lot more, despite being made more recently, during what you would think is an even more politically correct time. For starters, we're shown a flashback scene where Wonka is deep in the jungle wilderness when he finds the Oompa Loompas. And granted, he does explain he was in Loompa Land, which Dahl also described as covered in a thick jungle, but there's no denying what this imagery was inspired by. Not to mention, the actor Burton chose for the Oompa Loompa role, Deep Roy, is actually African. He was born in Nairobi, Kenya. So here we have an African man playing a character that was originally African, but then had to be changed because that was deemed offensive.